This is Flipping Tables Podcast, episode 21.
Yeah.
It is 21.
We can drink legally.
It can. And we broke the 2 10s barrier, which, because everybody measures things in tens, right?
Yep.
So I'm one of your hosts, David Lyons.
And I'm Michael Edwards.
And I think we have, I'm not totally surprised, but people came out in force for games they thought held up, right? Yoshi's Island, which I feel like Yoshi's Island's kind of unsung a little bit.
Yeah, it was late in the Super Nintendo era after Mario had already gotten plenty of attention.
Yes. But I feel like it is an honest to God successor to Super Mario World. It's the same kind of platforming. It's the same kind of grid layout where you move from level to level.
But it's got a twist.
It does have a twist. And it has, the one drawback is it does have the god-awful crying.
So it's very effective at making you want to keep Mario on your back.
Oh, yeah. And when the little Shy Guys swoop in and get him, it absolutely creates that sensation of, my baby! It's very, Die Hard, kind of I have to rescue my family.
I think also by going for its, crayon effect for the graphics kind of holds up graphically better over time. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's a name for that art style, the juvenile. It looks like a 5-year-old did this, and yet somehow it's pixel perfect. Definitely holds up better than Super Mario World's graphics, which aren't bad, and pixel art in general holds up pretty well. But when I think of the boss in Yoshi's Island that stretches out in crazy size, that's a much better looking effect than any of the scaling that happens in Super Mario World.
That's true. Well, because they had mode 7 by then.
Yeah,
I feel
that was right off the bat. They had mode 7.
What came later? Was it the FX chip?
Yeah,
or something. Yeah, that. But I feel like it may be because we got this big resurgence in mobile games that have pixel art and crayon art and that kind of thing, but you're right. Those graphics totally hold up. You look at it and you're like, oh, that's awesome. That looks like a PS2 game. Oh, it's Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Somebody also mentioned Chrysalis, which I don't... No one listening except me and the person who said that
Chrysalis
probably played. Did you play Chrysalis?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so good. I don't feel as alone.
So for those who are Googling it right now, Chrysalis was a Zelda-style hack-and-slash action-adventure game.
Yes, but it had Phantasy Star 1 graphics.
Yeah, and it had some
tall,
very light RPG elements. You would go up levels if you grinded enough, killing these standing tigers in the field.
Yeah, I haven't replayed that since I was a teenager, so I don't know if I can give my thumbs up on this one. Maybe it holds up.
The most satisfying draw in my head about the game is that leveling up stuff, but also as you progress through the game, you get these different sword crystals that go up in levels. So you start out with the wind sword.
Oh, yep.
And then it had the Mega Buster mechanic where you would hold down and charge up your attack. Which
I feel like that's any action game that control scheme plays pretty well, because it's press A to kill, hold A to kill really hard. It's
and of course you can't move as fast, sort of Zelda style, when you hold down.
Yeah. Well, that was
maybe you can actually.
That was one thing about the Mega Buster that was I can jump really well with the middle joint of my thumb because you learn to do this weird flex and push.
I found with Nintendo's portables, their buttons keep getting smaller. I don't think it's just because I'm older and bigger. I think the 3DS A and B buttons are tiny.
Yeah, they do seem pretty, which is weird.
So it's
usually not like they eat up too much space.
It's not a big problem, but in a game like Mario Kart 7, where in Mario Kart A is held down 100% of the time.
Yeah. No one ever asks what button the brake is in Mario Kart.
Yeah. And so it's just after every race, I have a nice circle in my thumb.
Yep.
Lack of circulation.
Does was it the XL, the bigger 3DS?
I think the buttons are the same size.
So everything is bigger, but the buttons are still tiny.
Yeah.
I can understand the distance between them being crucial, because you don't want to accidentally push multiple buttons at the same time, but it seems weird to make them tiny little Tic Tacs.
Yeah.
We need chiclets, not Tic Tacs.
What was wrong with the Game Boy's button size? It's not too big.
Apparently something. Maybe, you know what? The 18th of a cent they save on that molded plastic, that's what's keeping Nintendo in the black. It is. Someone else, I think this was a friend of yours, said introduced me to the phrase dad gaming.
Yeah.
Which is the way he makes time, I guess, to game is extended bathroom trips and his mobile phone.
Yeah, so that was my grade school friend, Christoph.
Yeah, I like the name Dad Gaming because just like restroom is the more like conversation friendly way of saying toilet, Dad Gaming is like, I don't actually have massive diarrhea, but I am going to be in there for like 90 minutes because I'm really close to the end of this game.
Until I have no circulation in my legs anymore.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you get the elbows pinching off the nerves in your thighs. And this show has now gone totally blue.
Yeah.
This is like very high class.
No one wants to hear about this, but everyone knows what we're talking about.
Yeah. I feel like this is also whenever someone used to say like, oh, you read a book while you're in the bathroom? Yeah, everyone does. Yeah. I think only people who are truly germaphobes don't like read a paper or a book or take out their smartphone. Like it's just...
Even though your kitchen is worse than your bathroom as far as germs go.
Yeah, in variety. I would say there's probably a few more serious germs in the bathroom. I hope. Or at least don't cook me anything in your kitchen if you're unsure about this. But so the other thing that you mentioned about classic gaming still being, like not just nostalgia goggles is emulators. Mm-hmm. So I realized I don't know if this was true on the Wii, but at least on the Wii U, the emulators have save states. Mm. And
one save state.
Save state, singular. But I mean, so you said yourself, like that kind of makes some older games playable.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't have the time to sit there and grind through Battletoads.
Even very good games. Yeah. Battletoads. Cheap. Or Double Dragon 2, where the jumping mechanic is so janky that you need a save state before every jump because it's such crap when you just do the whole... Like in Mario, there's the like, no, I pressed jump, but really you're an idiot.
Yeah, you didn't jump deep down.
Double Dragon, you probably did, and it's still just middle fingered you and said, you're going to die. Yeah, definitely, I think required even for great old games, it's just modern convenience to be like, yeah, I could prove my worth and like beat this game in one sitting without any flaws, or I could just enjoy myself and before a tough section make a save state.
Yeah, so I feel like we went through that transition, right? Where like I remember sitting down to play Super Mario World and being like, okay, it's 9 a.m. and I have to be somewhere at 2 p.m. So if I don't eat breakfast or lunch, I could beat this without stopping before I have to leave the house. Yeah. But now I would just be like that would never occur to me. Yeah. Like even I replayed Super Metroid not that long ago, and you even get like this stupid little extra ending if you do it in under 3 hours. And I was like, I'm not going to beat this in under 3 hours because I want to enjoy it. Yeah. And I know there are people who enjoy speedruns, but I'm just not part of that group.
Yeah. Yeah, every time I start Super Metroid, which is at least once a year, I have that moment of like, am I going for the 3 hour? And it's honestly not hard to do.
No.
But it's like, no, let's just move slow and get every energy take.
Yeah, I just want to stroll down the halls. I don't want to speed run down every hall. I want to take in my creepy solo surroundings. So do you think in 5 or 10 years we're gonna have this same feeling toward like GameCube, PS1, PS2, Xbox, like that generation of games?
You mean like when it gets to the point where the storing the RAM of the entire instance of the game is trivial?
Yeah, I mean we're already not that far off. I mean you can buy for a reasonable amount of money 8 or 16 gigs of RAM.
Yeah. So
storing an entire PS1 game in memory would be like, I mean, it's not efficient, but I think you could do it.
Well, I mean, who's gonna like say no to it? I hope they bring that to emulators.
But do you think there will be a demand for it? Like, is anyone ever going to be nostalgic for that generation where it's like, well, no, I want every PS1 game in my pocket with me all the time, just in case, the way we are with like Super Nintendo?
We're just gonna have to stream the games. But
yeah,
that's like one of the annoying parallel things is storage gets cheaper, but no manufacturer has any incentive to, like, phones have been 16 gig standard for like 6 years.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's,
well, I guess they were 8 for a while, and then when it switched to 16, they were like, we're just going to ride the 16
run of like
train.
4, 8, and then it just got locked in at 16.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like the companies are probably, if you could get them to speak candidly off the record, I think like Sony, Microsoft, all the big music companies, Netflix, all those companies, well, Netflix has been very candid, but I think all those companies would say, like, we want to stream you whatever the hell you want. We have a whole library of crap that you're willing to give us money for, and we already own it. It's already made.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to pay us $10 a month to stream Final Fantasy VII, even though you have the disc sitting 5 feet away from you, we will take your $10.
Yeah.
But they know that the American networking infrastructure and the 4G network, wireless infrastructure is just not there.
Yeah.
Like, if Korea had the population density that America does, they would probably be just killing it in Korea and Japan because their network, I mean, it makes ours look like the 60s DARPA net. It's unbelievable. So are we going to get screwed out of emulation of that generation because they're pushing for the streaming network side, but that side also sucks?
I don't know. they just have no incentive to bump up local storage.
Yeah.
When everything's in the cloud, which I get for most things, but there are situations where you're like, I would like to just have this so that on a desert island I can play anything.
Just in case. Well, so you can't do save states, I guess, with that generation, but like on the Vita, you have your standby mode.
Yeah.
Not the same.
No.
But I would say those features work really well in tandem because I don't necessarily want to save what I'm doing. I just want to be able to put the system down for 90 seconds.
Turn the screen off.
Yeah, I need to go over here and do something. But then when I come back, I don't want to have to reload from the save spot. Not just the time that's wasted booting it up, but like in Final Fantasy, for example, it's like, well, I have to find a save spot and save. And if I'm not near one, then do I just leave it sitting there running?
Yeah.
I remember doing that as a kid, like Super Nintendo on for 9 hours at night while I slept so I could get back up.
To their credit, the portable Final Fantasies starting, well, maybe not the Game Boy ones, but they have a save you can do anywhere that disappears the second you restart your game.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Almost all of them. It's like a special kind of save that isn't something you can ever return to if you die later. It's just I'm going to stop playing and turn the system off for a while.
Right.
And bring me back to where I am.
And I've been grinding for 3 hours, so please don't make me lose all my progress. Yeah. Is it like quick save?
Yeah.
Okay, because I know in the Super Nintendo re-releases, they got quick save, which I never used because it's never clearly indicated inside the game what that does.
Yeah.
So I was always like, you know what, I'll just walk outside.
I think if you use it, they put up warning messages when you open a quick save, it's like, this is no longer going to be a save.
Just so you know.
We're going to dump you in the game and then forget.
And then it's
everything.
as if you were still playing.
Yeah.
So then you have to save again.
Yeah.
Weird.
But good for mobile devices.
Yeah. Have you played any of the Final Fantasies on like an Android or an iOS device?
Yeah. They have the weirdest font.
Yeah. Well, what's up with that?
They just go...
Because it's super smooth.
It's super smooth like Helvetica. And it just seems so wrong. I want a video game font, not...
Well, especially from that generation. It feels out of place. Like it might as well be... what was the Avatar font that everyone hated? Papyrus.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Every ethnic restaurant of any kind from any nationality font.
Yeah. Yep. That one. And it's always that kind of like faded yellowy color. Like the paper is, even though you can see that it's not the paper is even that color.
Like
it's printed
bird
on
marks on the corners.
Ugh.
Indiana Jones used it to find some.
So, I wanted to talk about a couple like weird interweb things that have happened recently. I'm sure you heard about the right to be forgotten, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you haven't forgotten about your right to be forgotten.
No.
Okay, so in just a quick summary for anybody who hasn't heard, in the European Union, their Supreme Court, I'm sorry, I don't know what it's called, but their high court said Google and also Bing and Yahoo. Everybody only attributes this to Google, but it's actually for search engines. But search engines have to take down links to content if someone says, I want you to take down this link to this content because it's bad.
If it's inaccurate or...
Yeah, defamatory, slander, that kind of thing. I guess libel, because it's in writing. But here's the thing. First off, this all started with one moron who, if you Googled his name, John Smith, then it came up with debts that he owed from like the 90s. Like he missed like a mortgage payment or something.
So wasn't there an update to that story that it was actually a commenter on that article? It wasn't that guy himself?
Ooh, that I don't know.
Yeah, it was someone who had commented on that page, on that article, that made the request.
So that's even worse.
Yeah.
So, okay, so
And that different search terms would still bring the article up. It was just if you searched...
Yes.
Certain dude's name.
Yes. So hold on to that thought. So the first thing that is terrible about this is no one knew this person is not famous. Like this was just some guy, and I'm sure he had a perfectly legitimate reason for missing this payment, and he got the debt settled, and he went back about his some guy life. Like, this is a perfectly normal thing that could happen to anyone, and it is not that big of a deal. But because he made a huge deal out of it, now everyone knows that this happened to him.
Yeah.
So they call that the Barbara Streisand effect because she had tried to
didn't want people to know where her house was.
Exactly. She wanted it to be blanked out.
And so she drew tons of attention to where her house was.
Yeah. So I don't know much about Barbara Streisand, but I know that her house is on Google Maps. So he won this court ruling, or his side won, I guess. And now in the EU, you can petition Google to take down a link to pretty damn near anything. But, as you said, it's based on certain terms. So if I write an article in the EU about how I'm the best person ever and Mike is a total asshat, and Mike petitions to have that link taken down, it's only for his name.
Yeah.
So, right? So only your name would be taken away. But if people searched for me, they would still find that article.
Yeah.
So there's already this like gaping loophole.
The other just obnoxious thing is they aren't making, assume it's in like the best use of this you can imagine, like there's actually false information in a legit article, like it's New York Times, they posted false information, they won't retract it.
Right.
Like, it seems like this ruling is designed to be like, remove that. But instead they go to Google and say remove the link, instead of New York Times, fix or pull your article.
Right.
Which is already like a big government intrusion on journalism, which is probably why they don't try to go that way.
Yeah. But to me this is very weird because they're saying, well, David has the right to free speech, but Google doesn't have the right to report on someone else's free speech. And I don't even mean report in like a journalistic way. I mean just literally be like, hey, that guy over there is exercising free speech. Because that's really all Google does.
This guy said that.
Yeah, this guy said that. Here's where he said it. That's all they do. I mean, that's, in a sense, search engine is as close to reporting pure fact as possible because all they're reporting is this thing exists, here it is.
Yeah.
You can't get a lot more objective than that. I mean, yeah, there's the ranking and the order of search results, but at the heart of it, they're saying that a thing is a thing and no other thing about that thing.
For some reason, it's reminding me of these weird legal loopholes when people try to do things like this, because instead of removing the article, they remove the link. Like, Hollywood knows that they can't get rid of fair use. So if educators want to use a clip from a movie for an educational purpose, they can't legally prevent them.
Right. Yeah,
but
you can't use an 89-minute clip
of
a 90-minute
DRM
movie
on a DVD and work the legislature to make sure it's illegal to break DRM.
Yes.
And so it's like, yeah, you're allowed to use that clip, but you have no legal way to get the clip.
Right.
And it's just like,
Yeah, it's like, yeah, no, you can use it. It's in this locked box. There are no keys to the box, but it's in there, and if you can get it, you can use it.
And so the government can be like, we aren't censoring. We didn't pull an article. If
Right.
you know the URL, you can get to his article.
Well, this is the other weird loophole. Because the EU only has power in the EU, like you'd expect, I, an American citizen, can easily find these things on American Citizen Google. Here's the thing about the internet. American Google is available to everyone. So is Australian Google and Korean Google and Taiwanese Google and all these other Google sites that are not affected by this ruling. So if you have a strong suspicion, I'm pretty sure there's an article about such and such a celebrity or political figure or whatever, but it's not coming up and I live in France, you can just proxy into, and I mean, this doesn't cost money. It's not hard. Anybody can go to any of Google's sites at any time. I'm going to confirm that.
So is this just like
Google.fr. Here's French Google right there.
Is this like a politician celebrity thing of they just want the average Joe who's just going to go to Google and not think about anything else and type a name in? They don't want the top result to be something embarrassing?
Here is... I mean, yeah, probably.
Was that the driving cultural force of why this ruling's happening?
Well, I don't know about all the EU countries, but I know Germany specifically, and I think France and England kind of fall into this, but Germany specifically they aren't really big on Google. They're very privacy minded and all like that. And I get that, but what they're asking for in this ruling, one, is so easily circumvented, it's laughable. It's like when you see pictures of a gate on a sidewalk, but then the grass has no fence.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, yeah, you've stopped them if they're a Pokemon character and they can't leave the sidewalk. But in real life, we can just step onto the grass and walk around the gate. So, I mean, that right there is it's a...
bypass economy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a... What do you call it? A shallow gesture or a hollow gesture. Because it's oh, look, we said you could take the link down. It's but it doesn't stop anything. Because here is what I believe is happening right now. Right now, two kids somewhere in Europe are forming a startup that does nothing except scrape the difference between the American Google search results for something and the EU Google search results for something.
Just be diff search.
Yeah, and their site is now going to be the number one thing because it'll get indexed by Google. So when they search for something, instead of getting that direct thing, you're going to get their site that links to that thing.
And the ruling will still apply to that search engine, but it's probably a whole other process as a citizen to request your link off of that.
But if they're smart, they won't be a search engine. They will just be a giant list of references. Because that's not a search engine. That's different. Google's the search engine.
A searchable list of references?
By Google. So it's that one level of abstraction is probably enough to legally skirt this ruling. I mean, if just going to google.com instead of google.co.uk is enough to skirt this ruling, then it can't be that hard. And even
they just
more
need to
so,
not host their servers in that country.
Yeah, but again, that's not a difficult thing. So it's that's what I mean. This is all gate on the sidewalk with no fence. The other weird thing is you can go and see all of the things that have been taken down.
That's another Streisand-y part of this.
Yeah, because a lot of people have been criticizing Google. They're like, wow, because remember, this also impacts Yahoo and Bing and Ask and any other search. Yeah, Ask and web crawler.
Jeeves.
No, Jeeves.
Lycos.
Jeeves is dead. It is only Ask. Ooh, hotbot. Whoa. So if we have any listeners that are under 20, they're like, what were all those things those people just said? But so you can go and see all these things on Google's, like, we had to take this down, and people have been criticizing them, saying, wow, Google, you're kind of responding with a lot of gusto. Like, why are you being so aggressive about taking things down when, like, Yahoo and Bing are dragging their feet? And a lot of people suspect that this is Google's way of being like, yeah, look how dumb this is. Look how we're taking it down the day you ask, and it makes no difference.
Yeah.
So there's
Well, they also, don't they make it kind of onerous on purpose? Like, you have to list all the exact URLs in your request. Like, they're not going to figure out.
No, because not only were they not legally asked to do so, but that's not safe for them.
Yeah.
If I went and I said, oh, take down every reference to my name, they would be like, no, there are other people with your name.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that. You have to tell us specific
destroy
things.
the strength of our results. Results.
So then the final thing I'll say about this that is kind of a downer note is they've made in some way public the information about the kinds of things that are being taken down. And it's not the politician who did thing A, but thing B was reported and he's trying to, like, save his career because there's false information. Yeah. It's pedophiles, it's criminals, it's corrupt politicians, it's, drunk drivers, celebrities.
Accurate embarrassing reports.
Yeah, and legitimate criminal activity. Like, there's a reason, I don't know if this is true in the EU, but in the United States, there's a reason we have a sex offender database. Like, people need to know that. Like, if I'm moving into a neighborhood with small children, I need to know if all of my neighbors are sex offenders. Yeah. That's relevant, right? So, it's right out of the gate, it doesn't work, and it's only being used by people who their wrongdoing should be known.
Yeah.
So this whole thing is ridiculous. I have a feeling about how this will either get overturned or circumvented to such a level that it becomes like a joke law. Like, yeah, the law is on the books, but it doesn't change reality in any way.
Yeah.
Like in Florida, I don't know if this is still true, but it used to be illegal for a man to wear a formal evening gown on the sidewalk after 6 p.m. Like, if you were a guy, you couldn't be cross-dressing on the street. And I assume that the idea was to prevent, like, some kind of prostitution, but that's such a specific wording of such a...
No whistling in the water.
Yeah,
it's one of those strange laws.
So it's just like, I guess it's on the books, but has it changed anything about reality in Florida? No, not a thing. So I don't know. I'll be interested to see how this plays out.
It kind of speaks to is there a bigger conversation of trying to fix the world with policy and rules instead of making culture better?
Yes.
Like being better people instead of trying to set up the Rube Goldberg machine of rules that somehow magically makes things better.
Well, especially, I feel like rules work for baser instincts. Like, we as humans, we want things, so we have to make stealing illegal because otherwise some people would just walk around and take stuff. I mean, there are people who already do that.
Yeah.
But this way we have a way to punish them, right? But with something like free speech or like freedom of religion, like, those are kind of ethereal, like, high-minded concepts, so it's really difficult to just make like a one-page set of circumstances under which free speech is okay and is not okay.
Like maybe a certain healthcare ruling in Hobby Lobby.
Maybe like that. Like, by way of example. Yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
No, God, let's not. Then we would be way too deep into the politics muck. So then there's another Google bit of wackiness.
I remember this one.
Yeah, well, here, go ahead. Explain this one to our listeners.
So someone at Goldman Sachs accidentally sent an email to the wrong address.
There are giant ironic air quotes around accidentally.
Yeah.
I mean...
They sent an email to the wrong person. They probably had to go, knowing the kind of business Goldman Sachs is in, and was it a lawyer? Or it was some kind of, like, privileged client information that they're saying was in this email.
Yes, they were very vague about like, oh, it's
rightly so.
But they were like, I'm sure they made it seem much scarier. Like, like the codes to the president's football got out. Now anyone can launch a nuke.
Yeah. And so the story is that they are asking Google to unsend the email from that person's inbox.
Yes. To actually go in and delete it from the recipient, who's already received it, obviously, because, I mean, it takes seconds.
Yeah. How can you unsend an email?
Well, and this is the scary thing.
And you don't know if he already saw it and forwarded it and saved it and did other stuff with it, so...
they would know if he opened it. Actually, they would know anything he did with it, because it's Gmail, which is a hosted service.
POP set up, and they might not know if it's on random devices.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so he could have POP or IMAP. I guess they'd still know IMAP, but if he popped the email off, then
even
it's
if
gone.
he IMAP'd, but it's just synced to a device that's no longer on the network.
Right. Yeah, but so Google actually complied and did what they've been calling freezing it. So the email is still in this person's inbox, but they can't open it, they can't forward it, they can't delete it, they can't do anything.
Is that like a let's figure this out motion?
Yes. So Google said, okay, we're going to lock the email so it's in place. We haven't changed the universe, but they just can't access it. Which, as far as I know, they've never done before. But then they said, okay, now you have to go get a court ruling saying we have to delete this. Otherwise, you're on your own.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's like some time limit or something.
That seems like a very sensible response to not piss off someone needlessly.
Right.
But to be like, we're not going to mess with someone's inbox without being forced to.
Yes. But I am struggling to understand what is so sensitive that it, especially to Goldman Sachs, which is not like a military organization or a political organization. They're a financial organization. So what is so sensitive that someone somehow accidentally sent to a private email address that it's worth Google intervening at all?
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's some clients' private information that they don't want to get sued for.
Tough. That's still not Google's problem.
I know, but you're Goldman Sachs. You don't care what Google's problem is or isn't. You just don't want this stuff to go public and get sued because you leaked something.
No, I agree. I understand Goldman Sachs being upset. I understand someone being fired and maybe like fired out of a rocket into the sun because they have that kind of money. But I do not understand Google being like...
A golden rocket? No.
A golden rocket. A golden sack. But I don't understand Google saying like, yeah, we agree. This is so bad that it is now our responsibility to help. Like, good guy Google. Like, oh, we're going to help save your business interests. Like, why? Because they're towing a dangerous precedent.
Yeah.
That, oh, you have an idiot intern who sent an email to the wrong person. We better help you out.
Well, I find it's a lot better that they're saying get a court ruling than they just removed it. Then I'd be like, okay, I'm leaving Google because
no, they're towing a dangerous line. So it's like they're gonna. I feel like.
Do you think a court's gonna rule that? So here's the thing: is our email legislation is messed up because it's stuck in the 90s and 80s. Because your mailbox online is treated as a temporary location that you retrieve from.
Yes.
And so...
It is a post office box.
I could see a court saying, yeah, it's a post office. It's not really that person's stuff yet. And,
right.
You know?
Yeah, and that's exactly what people are saying.
We're just intercepting it in transit.
Yes. That's exactly...
It's like, that's not how people use email. Email is in the cloud, but that's my email.
Yes. Yeah, because to me, this is like when you get a safety deposit box from a bank.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. So it's like, yes, it's in your bank, but it's in your bank because you're providing a service, and that service is security. Everything inside the box is still only my business. And a safety deposit box is actually legally protected. That's why it's illegal to put cash in a safe deposit box, because it's unknown.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't put like cash in a safety deposit box. You can't put weapons in a safety deposit box or drugs or anything, because...
Just embarrassing secret Nazi past.
Exactly. Because it's illegal without like super high court orders to violate the security of a safety deposit box. I mean, I think it's akin to breaking into someone's house.
Yeah.
So we need to probably start treating cloud services that way, because I don't have a server under my desk at home that has all my email. I mean, I make backups, but that's not the primary place I access email, because I can't.
And wouldn't it be, I mean, is there an email service out there that encrypt stuff in such a way that they can have plausible deniability? Like, oh, sorry, we actually can't go into that for like LavaBits or something.
Is LavaBits the one that shut down?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was them, because they actually stood up and said, we do full encryption, blah, blah, blah. And some court came to them and said, we need to get you in there. And they said,
give us your encryption key.
Yeah, and they said no, and the court was like, yes. And they were like, you know what, we're just going to close our business.
Well, then he printed out the key at like a super huge font on paper. Oh, and gave him a stack of paper. And the courts don't like when you do obviously shenanigans stuff.
They're not into cuteness.
And he's like, I did it. And they're like, we're not going to hand type this key.
Yeah, this 1,200 digit.
He's just buying himself some time to...
Oh, that's amazing. We'll find a link to that story.
That dude's like a unsung like hero of like, he is going to get screwed in the courts for like gaining contempt. But he protected his customers' data anyway.
Yes. Well, I think people in security circles, like he's, you know, they're doing beatification for him right now, like going through that process.
Make him a saint.
That's right. Patron saint of security of email. But so Google has talked about, well, here, let's finish this first. So we agree, I think, and I think we speak for most people, they just haven't thought about it this far. But I think we agree that cloud services in general, but email in particular, like that, it's in the cloud, but that needs to be like sacred ground.
Yeah.
Right? So there have been rumors going around for a little while about Google doing end-to-end encryption, and some of the rumors say it's only going to be within Gmail. So if a Gmail address emails another Gmail address, it's encrypted end-to-end the whole way.
Yeah.
When it gets there, where it started, the whole thing is encrypted. Other people have said that no, they're actually going to bake encryption into Gmail totally. So anyone you email.
But would that be meaningless if our government legislates, hey, you have to give us access to some people's email?
We have to control the keys. That's it. If Google provides an encryption, like a tunnel that allows encryption, but they don't hold the keys, then court orders are meaningless. You have to go to individuals and say, you have to turn over this email. You can't go to Google and say, open the gates.
Yeah. What don't they have a word for this, like the mud puddle test or something? Like, it's like if you dropped your device in a puddle and it's destroyed, and there's some more to it, like you have amnesia, you completely forgot your account.
Okay. Like could they...
Can the company get your stuff back? If they can, your stuff's not secure.
Yes. Yeah, I haven't... I know the term or the concept you're talking about, but so like LastPass is a good example. LastPass makes it very clear, they're a password manager service, that you are on your own. They can't recover your keys. They can't get into your stuff. If you forget your password, if you are the only one who knows the secret to the safe and you die, you get hit by a bus, that's it. It's done. It's gone.
There's a bunch of hashed data that no one can read.
Yeah, we have a bunch of random garbage that means nothing to no one. So, but that's good because that's the service they're selling.
Because now, even if they're strong-armed, they can't give up your secrets.
Exactly.
No matter what gag order the FBI puts on them.
And what do you... there's another term that I can't... Man, we're just batting 1,000 today. It's like the more people who know a secret, you have like an exponentially larger number of failure points because it's like, well, if I tell just Mike, that doesn't mean I now can't tell other people. So, like, I still have infinite failure points, and now you have infinite failure points because you can go tell everyone or one other person. That one other person can go tell everyone. So it's the security has to be with the person who actually cares about it being secure, not with the company.
But I do think a lot of cloud companies are even more than ever like, do we have to store that data? Let's not store it because then we can't be asked for it. Like, how much can they do that for everything?
Yeah, I mean, it's a win-win for governments or for companies and their customers, and a loss for the government. And I'm not anti-government, but I feel like in this situation, that's the right outcome.
That would be a great outcome, because I think the other outcome is right now there's sort of like Facebook and Google and any company that has a business that includes collecting data and doing something with it.
Yeah.
They have an incentive right now of like, we want this to be our data because it's a competitive advantage and we don't want to give it up to the government or anyone else.
Right.
But I could see that being watered down by the government being like, well, we've got all this taxpayer money we can pay you with. And like, you could sweeten the deal of we're taking your data. And so it's like, that's not safe.
Right.
Even though right now our interests are weirdly aligned, where like Google wants our data, but they don't want anyone else to have it.
Yeah. Well, but I feel like that's why 10 years from now, we will probably still be using things made by Google. And if Facebook doesn't change 10 years from now, we will not be using Facebook, because Facebook's competitive advantage is people use Facebook. Google's competitive advantage is we are Google. Like, because if a year from now everyone decides Gmail is crap, which they won't, but if a year from now everybody decided Gmail was crap, they're linked into Google in a ton of other ways.
Yeah.
They use apps for business at work. Their kids use apps for education at school, and they use Google Drive for personal stuff, and they use Maps
and Android everywhere.
Yeah, and they have Android on all their devices, and there's all these like underlying services that connect things, like these messaging protocols and stuff people don't even know exist, and so there's like, they've fanned out in a way that if me storing my personal information with Google is no longer something I'm okay with, that doesn't end my relationship with Google. It makes it harder, it makes it less productive maybe, but it doesn't bring it to a grinding halt. If I say I don't want Facebook to know anything about me anymore, our business is concluded. Their entire business is, what do they know about me?
They just have to track you a little more anonymously everywhere you go, but
Oh yeah. I mean, and I think too, Google makes a lot of their stuff, like more and more, I think they're kind of branching out into non-ad based revenue streams. And I mean, if you look at their income, they still make, if ad revenue went away, they would go out of business because they need that money.
Yeah.
But they're starting to lay the foundation to not rely so heavily on their single income stream. They sell hardware. So right there, that has nothing to do with ads.
Yeah.
They're getting.
Do they profit on hardware though?
I would. Well,
there seems like there's a lot of loss leader-ish stuff.
Yeah. Most people would say not directly, but on the other hand, if you buy their hardware, that means you're using their services, and then they sell ads. So.
Right. I mean, in a way that the hardware is like.
Right. Like in the way Apple does.
Not indirectly.
Yeah. On most stuff, probably not. Like on anybody who
the
has
Chromebook Pixel is profitable.
Yes. Google Glass, profitable. But on anybody who puts their services on their devices has to pay a licensing fee. And I mean, Microsoft lives on licensing fees, so we know that model can work.
Yeah, totally.
So there's, I guess...
is Google chasing a Microsoft model?
Probably not.
Well, it looks more like that model than like Apple's model.
Yes. Yeah, no, between those two poles, it's more licensing than premium hardware. But could they have like a little from both? Can they sell some premium hardware to a small market and make a profit on it? It doesn't run the company, but they make a profit on it. And then they also license stuff to other people, and it doesn't drive the entire company, but they make a profit on it. And if you diversify enough, then if one of them dries up or a couple of them start to like maybe ramp down, you don't collapse. I mean, this is like, I hear people say this about Facebook all the time. Like, if enough people stopped going to Facebook, it would totally collapse, because they say they have like 750 million users, but they really don't. They really don't.
They are. I mean, everyone's like, how fast MySpace died, or like these other earlier examples. I do think it's a little different now, because if Facebook dies, things can change quickly, but it will not be as fast as MySpace faded. Like,
agreed.
There was like a year, probably a 12-month span of like, now I'm done.
Now I'm done, and my life has not changed.
Like there was that tipping point of like, MySpace had tons of bullshit all the time. It was really obnoxious, terrible interface, terrible. Everything was
you didn't like the pink glitter effects.
The actual software was terrible, and the affordances made people create awful pages. But there was a point of like, this isn't even cool anymore. So immediately I'm fed up with all the crap I've been putting up with to use it.
But I feel like that is starting to happen more with Facebook. I mean, I still know
ingrained in it's how people share photos.
It is. And I mean, I think they have the power to still save it, because they're very established. The world is different. More people are connected than they ever were during like the MySpace and Friendster era.
Yeah. I guess all I'm saying is they won't disappear in 6 months.
Yeah. Well, I think
it'll be a longer tail.
They have the power to make themselves stay relevant, or they could do something so stupid that there was a mass exodus. Like, Mark Zuckerberg could go all Pharaoh of Egypt, and then all the Hebrews could be like, "No, we're out."
Like a dig moment.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they'll do that. I think they're smarter than that. I just think Facebook is not so crucial to anyone that if they screwed up hard enough, I mean, like, for 7 straight days, all Facebook data was fully public on the indexed web. Like, massive, everyone is effective privacy violations.
I think there's a little more abusive relationship going on, that people would be like, it is really bad that he beat me, but we love each other. We're soulmates.
Nah, baby, I'd never hurt you.
Because they've already done awful things.
They have. You're right. You are. Yeah.
Every like, I can't think of a single change related to privacy that isn't like, this made it a lot easier to accidentally overshare.
So then let's do a quick hypothetical round. What would Facebook have to do to make you personally leave? Not people in general, but you personally. What would they have to do? Charge money?
I would leave if they charged money.
Okay.
That's already become an email from your grandma. Forward.
It's just automatic.
Forward this, or Facebook's going to charge money.
It's true. Yeah. So, okay.
I would leave if they charged money.
So, all right. So let's dive into that. So if they charged money for premium services, but you got to keep what you had for free, would you stay?
They already do that if you run anything other than your personal account. Because it's like, no one's going to see your posts unless you pay us.
Oh, that's true. Okay, but you're an individual,
like you
not a
reached
business.
14 people. Want to reach 1,000 people?
Which someone did an experiment and showed that may not actually work. Because buying likes from Facebook is tantamount to buying likes from third-party companies where they just have like a click farm, and the algorithms that Facebook uses to control the newsfeed can't tell the difference, so it breaks. So it's like, so many people liked it, so we're going to show it to the people who liked it. It's like, those people aren't real people. So them seeing it doesn't count.
I just hate anything that, like, you, like, don't think about the result online of like, 1,000 extra people clicked like, and therefore it boosted it in the algorithm.
Yeah. Nope.
Just think of the real world situation of we are paying people to sit and click likes, or we're like write software that fakes it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is such a stupid waste of human energy.
Yeah, just resources being shat on.
Like it's such an absurd picture in my head of like, yeah, I just sit and pretend to be a person that is liking something in a virtual way, and I'm like,
well, and I think most
humans,
companies
what are you doing?
Go home, humanity, you're drunk. I think most companies would probably be really upset if they realized that if 1,000 people, well, let's say you have 100,000 fans of your company, and then you buy 10,000 likes. Well, the algorithm now is like, oh, those are our engaged customers, so we need to show more stuff to them and not to the other people. Well, the other people are the ones who actually have this weird quirk of existing, and the 10,000 likes you bought are fake accounts just for the purposes of liking garbage. So now your content is being programmatically steered away from real humans to garbage.
But that's just like it's like biological viruses and survival of like, that's human garbage virus of attached to, like, I just think of like the history of how Google tries to tweak their page ranking to try to feature real content that is made by valuable contributors to the internet and try to get the crap out of there. And it's like this cat and mouse game of people scraping real content and posting other places and dressing it up in all these different ways.
Yep.
And it's like, it's just this virus that coexists.
I was reading like some developers blog recently, and it had, it was a kind of a listicle, and one of their points was something that works in an obvious and predictable way is always a better solution than a clever algorithm. And I looked at that and I was like, yeah, that makes sense, because other people are going to look at my code and they need to understand what the hell is going on, and I need to understand, like, in 6 months am I going to remember my clever little trick? But thinking about it, that's true, like, unless you're Google. Like, if you have that many smart people working on a problem every day where they're not going to forget about it, they're not going to misunderstand it, like, then you do want clever, smart math doing all kinds of amazing things. Right? I mean, don't you want...
Well, it's just like spam filters.
Yeah. Like, I want Google to have engineers full-time working on the difference between the original content and the crappy screen-scraped repost. Yeah. Like, if they can use math and figure out the difference between those things and never show me the crappy repost again, awesome.
Yeah, I think the concern is if it's secret, then do we know someday Google or another company wouldn't use that algorithm just to boost people?
Yeah, so I mean SEO
so just
hacking,
the new form of payola, but
yeah, I mean SEO hacking is like a common pastime among marketers and those viral people and all like that. But I think that's why the algorithm has to be secret.
Who algorithms the algorithmers? But
Is that a show title, or is that the most complicated spelling for a show title ever?
It is.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I'm now a victim of...
I mean, I don't know what's worse, just the Wild West of like shit everywhere, that because they had to publish their algorithm, and now everyone can...
Yeah, nope, that's worse.
But is this search results by obscurity?
Maybe. I mean, this is...
And does that work? Because why is it not the same fallacy as security by obscurity?
This is kind of like a Huxleyan future where until Google stops giving me what I asked Google for, then I don't really care how the sausage is made.
It's like, give me my Soma.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, if I go to Google and I say, oh, there was a Lifehacker article that I read 6 years ago that I can't remember the title of or any of the content, but it had the word "the," and that's the first result, then, like, I'm going to...
We need to put into that College Humor if Google had an office.
If Google was a real person.
Because that is what happens, like... Half like the time when I'm searching for something that's on the tip of my tongue, there's like this drunken slur of text that gets vomited into the engine, and more often than not, it figures out what I wanted, and I'm like, how?
Yeah,
like, there was this guy, he was like a detective, and he was in this one movie, and I don't know, there was And then it's like, you
oh, you mean this? It was starring this guy. It's airing tomorrow at the theater near you. Yeah. No, I don't know what elder god they sacrifice gnomes and elves to, but as long as it keeps working, it's really hard for me to want to know how the sausage is made. And if knowing how the sausage is made will stop it from working, then I don't want anyone to know how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
Like, I just want a magic black box that has quantum stuff in it that just search results pop out.
Shut up and give me search results.
Pretty much. Like, what would the benefit be to letting everyone know? I can think of only downsides.
The only way I can think is that there's some, just the same reason open source software is a benefit, because you have more people fixing flaws.
Yes, but are there not enough Google engineers with their eyes on this problem?
But that's the exact argument you would make. Like, if there are not enough software engineers at Microsoft to make a good, secure product, why should they be open source?
I feel like there's a difference between a security product and just a product. Like, yeah, if more people got their hands on Microsoft Office, could they make Microsoft Office better? Definitely. But if...
Maybe, but we watched the whole decades of trying to find an open source alternative to Office, and it was never really very good.
So now we're about to get into the difference between like a controlled product with an end goal and a direction versus a totally open source project, which is community driven.
That's true.
That's another show.
Yeah, that is a different thing. But I mean, I see a lot of parallels of like, can you justify? I mean, they can. They're a company. They make a product. They can decide not to open source it. That's their choice.
Right.
But I mean, not that right. But is it fundamentally different than an open source, like, I don't know.
I mean, I feel like...
Is it different than security by obscurity?
It's not in a way... It feels different. I honestly...
Are
I don't have a counter-argument.
0-day SEO exploits, basically.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I honestly do not have a counter-argument, but it feels different. It just feels really different. But I mean, your analogy is sound. I can think of no problems.
So, but I'm with you. Like, the drug feels great.
No, man, it's good.
Don't want to know that Google searches people.
Yeah, I don't have. Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe they don't want to tell us what the algorithm is, because really they just have like this farm of humans that is looking things up on physical paper and then typing URLs. So, okay, so those are, I think that's a good ending place.
Yeah.
So the two things that I want to do for follow-up this week are, do you think there's a difference between, like, Google's secret algorithm and, like, secret security protocols? Like,
well, and I think that people say security by obscurity is dumb because it doesn't work. And so maybe that's why this is different, is because by all appearances it works.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of the high-minded...
Because no one's like, you just shouldn't have secrets. It's like, no, we just have, like...
Yeah, some things,
it's just
maybe
not secured. Just claim that...
Right. So that's the high-minded feedback I'm interested in. And the other, like, kind of low-brow, more emotional one is just, what would it take to get you to quit Facebook? Because there's got to be something. Yeah. Like, for Mike, it's money.
That's just one obvious one.
It's just one of the
myriad. If they were going to slay your firstborn, would you quit Facebook? Maybe.
I don't know. Kid's been pissing me off.
Would you rather be rich or stupid?
Can it be both? Yeah, so within reason, I guess, what would it get to make you quit Facebook is the better question.
Yeah.
Not just if they, said they were going to bomb
I hope this sends
China.
people off on a thought experiment, and then they're like, yeah, I'm going to quit now.
Yeah.
Like, why haven't I quit?
That would be a totally acceptable outcome to this question. So, Mike, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at medwardsmusic or on the web at pseudomichael.com. How about yourself?
People can find me at Lyons in Beta on Twitter, lyonsinbeta.com, or plus David Lyons on Google+. And what about these awesome show notes?
So head to flippingtablespodcast.com/021 for the show notes.
I think, so we were a little late this week.
Comment. Come on.
Yeah, do. Comments and feedbacks are the lifeblood of the internet, pretty much, except YouTube.
And cats.
Also cats. But I think, are we going to be back on schedule next week? I think we are.
I think so.
Okay, so we were a little late this week. It was worth the wait, but it's nice to stick to a schedule. So I think next week we're back on target for Tuesday.
Yep.
And maybe we'll talk about crazy secret algorithms and open source versus closed source. Might be a programming episode next week. It'll be a surprise.
Right.
You'll have to tune in to
You
find out.
never know what we're going to talk about.
But we will see you next week.